Yesterday, the Prime Minister unveiled a long-promised income-splitting plan. It began as a campaign promise back in 2011. It allows couples to pool income to lower their overall tax burden. It will be a particular benefit to families with a stay-at-home parent with little or no income. It won't, however, help single parents or those who can't afford to have a parent stay home. Writing the Globe and Mail, Kathleen Leahy of Queen's University said the Harper government's parental income-splitting plan is designed in such a way that guarantees it will only make a difference to the richest Canadians. By design, it cannot help those who need assistance with childcare the most. But at the event announcing the new tax break, the Prime Minister hailed the plan's wide application and said it separates his government from the opposition.
And we have always been clear as a government, this is a difference between our philosophy and the others. We have always been clear that money and support to help families raise children should not go into more bureaucracy. It should go to the real experts on childcare. That's mom and dad, and that is what we are doing.
Combine this major change to the tax code to some financial headwinds, and policymakers in Ottawa have a lot on their plate just a year before an election. Joe Oliver is Canada's Minister of Finance. Great to have you with us.
Happy to be here.
One of the big complaints, Minister, and you know that your predecessor felt this, about the income splitting is that it doesn't benefit every Canadian, that it's unequal, and in fact doesn't benefit some at all and benefits some a lot. He preferred plans that, like the GST cut, which you could criticize, but benefits everybody. What is good about this? How can you defend income splitting in the face of those criticism?
Well, the first point is, of course, that we presented an integrated family plan which included not only the income splitting, but a bigger part of it was the enhancement of the universal child care benefit. And when you combine the two, over 4 million families are affected, every one of whom will be benefited by it. 2/3 of the benefits will go to lower and middle income families, and 25% will go to families earning less than $30,000 a year. So this is a very progressive measure. So
in the contrast that will be made with, for instance, a universal child care plan, your argument would be that you are, as the Prime Minister said, you're giving the money directly to the parents. Right. It's a less universal way to go about it, but not bureaucratic. Is that the appeal, that it goes directly to individuals?
Well, it's not less universal because it's going to every family with children, but it is going to the parent, and we believe parents are better able to decide how to save and spend their money. As well, you know, a bureaucratic approach is much more expensive, and the NDP approach is very much more expensive, and it only affects 1/3 of the children under 6.
One of the questions that's been raised, and partly that's because of falling revenues, because of falling oil prices, but let's start there. Whether you are worried about falling revenues because of falling oil prices, is that something that's on your mind?
Well, it's something we're watching, obviously, because falling oil prices do impact oil companies, they impact royalties. On the other hand, they advantage a lot of manufacturing companies and consumers. So it has a balanced effect. But bottom line, we're very comfortable. We're going to have a surplus. We can afford the measures we've taken, and we'll be able to take others.
And how long do you think it takes for us to understand what that balance will be between adversely affecting tax revenues on the one hand and possibly benefiting the economy through consumers and manufacturers on the other?
Well, you know, part of it, of course, is how deep the prices fall and how long they stay there. I mean, that's obvious. And, you know, we have different scenarios for that. But even if they fall and stay low, you know, we're pretty comfortable. We're fine.
We have seen some weakness in the Canadian economy, GDP numbers that just are disappointing, really. Do you expect that to improve because we see strength south of the border, or what is driving the weakness here?
Well, I do expect it to improve because the U.S. economy, I think most people would agree, is moving ahead. It's steady and it's sustainable, and that is bound to have a positive impact on the Canadian economy. What we're waiting for, you know, as I've said before, is for confidence to come back to Canadian companies so they start spending all the cash that they have sitting there, you know, earning almost no interest. So that will, of course, impact on growth and on employment. It hasn't fully happened yet, obviously, but we're hoping that it soon will.
We lost potential investment in a plant in Windsor, Ford plant in Windsor, lost it to Mexico. What we understand is that the terms on the table, there were a bunch of things, but that the federal government was one of the ones that said, no, we can't do this with tax dollars. What's at stake here? Are we backing away from the idea that we will invest to bring this kind of manufacturing here?
Well, I don't know all the details of that particular situation, but manufacturing will benefit from a lower dollar. It'll benefit, or some manufacturers will, and it'll benefit mainly from an increase in growth in the Canadian economy. There was a lot of concern before when prices were high. Somehow that was going to be bad for the economy. Now prices are low. People are saying, well, that's bad for the economy. Fact is, it's a pretty complex, interrelated set of issues, but it will impact on revenue in some sectors. That's clear, and we're watching that.
Should we be doing more from a kind of a national policy point of view, though, to be thinking about how to invest in and create jobs in Canada? I know it's not something you don't think about, but are we going about it the right way to replace falling oil revenue and possibly even that industry as we look way down the road? Well,
I don't think we have to replace that industry. What we have to do is get the infrastructure built to get the resources to Tidewater so we can continue to export, because there is no question that there's a disparity between the domestic price and the international price, and our sole customer is going to become our competitor. Certainly in gas they already are to some degree. Yeah. So that's the big challenge there. But at the same time, of course, we've got to make the investments, and we are, in innovation, in science and technology to boost productivity. That's equally very important.
Some would say, in fact, have said today in Alberta that we've put a chill, the federal government put a chill on foreign investment to develop some of those natural resource assets in the oil sands. How do you respond to that? Did the change in the Investment Canada rules cause some confusion among potential investors?
Well, I don't think it did amongst those who were really knowledgeable, because it was very, very targeted. All we said was that we wouldn't really look favorably on a control interest in the oil sands by a state-owned enterprise. I mean, it's a pretty narrow sort of thing. And, we're going to take a national security look. I mean, there's always not always, but there can be a balance between economic advantage and sovereignty. And so we have a responsibility to Canadians to get into this with our eyes wide open. But there's enormous opportunity for Canada on the resource side of that. We just have to be able, literally, to deliver. So, we've got quite a balanced economy, and we're in pretty good shape. But as I said, it's the external factors that are the real risk for us.
One of the things your government's facing criticism about today is an omnibus bill that includes a reduction in social assistance to refugees. Can you respond to, I would say, two things. One, whether omnibus bills are really good democratic tools, and two, whether we are disadvantaging the most vulnerable members of our society.
Well, let me hit the second one first. We're not making any changes. We're allowing the provinces to make decisions. Now, so if people in Ontario, or the Ontario government can complain about the opportunity to make a decision. If they don't want to make any changes, they don't have to. But what we're saying is, look, people who have not been approved, for example, or have been rejected, the province may decide not to provide certain services to them, or provide services greater than what they're providing to Canadian citizens. I mean, so that we're leaving the decision to the provinces whether they want to make a move. Now, in respect to the omnibus bill, this isn't the first omnibus bill. There have been a number of them in the past, including. They seem
to increase in number, though, as we go along.
Well, I think actually the page number is maybe decreasing a bit, but the fact is they're related to economic issues. There's an enormous number of tax measures there, and it's been out for, I think, since February. So there's been, I don't know, 10 months or was it 8 months of opportunity to discuss it. There'll be plenty of opportunity to discuss it in committee. There was a meeting that went, I think, almost to midnight last week. There'll be opportunities in the House of Commons to discuss it. This is not diminishing democracy in any way.
All right, Minister, we got to leave it there. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Joe Oliver is the Minister of Finance.